Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Winnebago County Board meeting. Tonight is Thursday, November 14th, 2024. Tonight's invocation and pledge allegiance is by Board Member Kevin McCarthy. Please stand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Most Heavenly Father, on this Thursday evening, we come before you with our thoughts and prayers and use of our conscience that we dedicate ourselves to our communities. Each and every one of us, we put ourselves forward to do best for each and every one of our communities. So Heavenly Father, let's us pray for all our first responders, police, fire, each and every one of us, those that are ill, and the board members here, that we do our job and do it right with using our conscience, and that united we stand. All in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almost done with that building.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Mr. Thompson, are there any agenda announcements this evening?
No announcements, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Clerk Gumau, can you please call the roll?
Certainly, thank you, Chairman. We will start with Ms. Fellers.
Present.
Mrs. Gorel. Present. Mr. Guevara. Ms. Hansard. Here. Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Lindmark. Mr. McCarthy. Present. Mr. McDonald. Present. Mr. Neighbors. Here. Mr. Penny. Here. Mr. Salgado.
Present.
Mr. Scroll. Here. Mr. Sweeney. Present. Mr. Tassoni. Present. Mr. Thompson.
Present.
Mr. Webster. Here. Mr. Arena. Here. Mr. Booker. Present. Mr. Butita. Here. Mrs. Crosby. Here. Chairman, 19 board members present, 1 board member absent.
Thank you. We do have a quorum this evening. Next under our agenda, number 5, awards, presentations, public hearings, and public participation. There are no awards to be given, no presentations, no public hearings this evening, but we do have public participation. I'm going to read a statement here that applies to all our speakers. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may not address zoning matters which are pending before the ZBA, the zoning committee, or the county board. Personnel matters or pending or threatened litigation may not be addressed in open session. An individual may speak a maximum of 3 times per calendar year on the same topic. This prohibition shall include the repetition of the same topic in a statement on what is purported to be a different topic. Personal attacks or inappropriate language of any sort will not be tolerated. Our first speaker tonight is Mr. John Small. If you could come forward. Mr. John Small? Okay. Next speaker is Rebecca Busan. If you could come forward.
As a community, we deeply value our agricultural land. There are great concerns about a proposed rezoning of fertile farmlands into solar farms. It's crucial to state our apprehension about Governor J.B. Pritzker push for widespread solar farms while excluding his own home county. This disregard for the voices of tax-paying Illinois residents here in Winnebago is alarming. Isn't this why you are all here? To represent the local citizens' interest? Our community is distressed by potential impact of rezoning productive farmland into solar farms. This is a major concern given the statistics from the American Farmland Trust, which highlights that Illinois lost over 500,000 acres of farmland from 2001 to 2016. and another 155,653 acres from 2017 to 2024. This is more than any other Midwestern state. Such loss disrupts an inherent character of our community, our economy, and our local ecosystems. Alongside this, there are valid uncertainties over potential pollution concerns involving the recycling of panels and the handling of heavy metals. Our stance is not against renewable energy projects. On the contrary, we fully support it. What we dispute, however, is jeopardizing vital farmland in the process. Why give up one resource for another? We respectfully request the board to reflect on these points and protect our farmlands. Promote sustainable alternatives that do not infringe upon our fertile lands. Our community has the right to be heard, so let's navigate to renewable future together without this damaging rezoning of farmland that could compromise our agricultural heritage. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Cheryl Hochstetler. If you could come forward, please.
Good evening. The building of industrial solar projects isn't just altering America's rural landscapes, it's erasing the charm and beauty that define our agricultural communities. It's time to preserve these landscapes for current and future generations. The presence of industrial solar projects has been proven to lower property values. As homeowners, farmers, and landowners, we deserve to protect our investments and not suffer economic losses due to the negative impact of these projects. Our farmland plays a vital role in supporting diverse ecosystems and providing habitats for wildlife. The intrusion of industrial solar projects jeopardizes the delicate balance of nature, disrupting these habitats and endangering the myriad of species that call it home. Hazards are also associated with these solar farms, such as grass fires. An example of this occurred on September 20th, 2024 in Eagle Point, Oregon. There were consequently 3 grass fires caused by overheated electronic panels that failed and then subsequently dropped molten electronics onto the dry grass. Solar panels cannot be fully de-energized. If the sun is shining, electricity is produced within the panels. There is no off switch to stop electricity from being produced within the panels and the internal components. The majority of solar panels are manufactured in communist China. By granting federal tax credits for industrial solar projects, we inadvertently bolster their economy, putting American taxpayers at a disadvantage. It's time to support our own local industries, farmers, and communities instead. The current system places the financial burden on American taxpayers as they subsidize the profits of solar developers through these tax credits. It's time to demand that our tax dollars be invested in responsible, efficient, and reliable energy projects that benefit America's own economy and communities. Springfield is forcing the 102 counties in the state of Illinois to allow the installation of solar farms wherever and whenever someone decides to stop growing crops and start making easy money. Thanks to the government grants and federal subsidies, these solar companies are making millions of dollars as our tax dollars are now being used against us. I think it's time to stand up to Springfield and let our voices be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mary Lynn Green.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Lynn Green. Some of you may or may not know me. I'm a retired judge from here in Winnebago County for 13 years, where I proudly served. I'm here as a taxpayer from Winnebago County, and I think that we need to keep in mind, all of us, that there's some fundamental fairness questions going on here. It seems to me that the citizens of Winnebago County are being treated disparately from those of Cook County. And I would urge you, because Winnebago County is well known, if you don't know, in legal circles in the state of Illinois as an innovator, very progressive, new ideas, putting together new programs. And I would like to see Winnebago County take the lead in showing the state exactly what they're doing to their citizens. Because I can tell you as a taxpayer in Winnebago County, I'm not being given the same property rights as taxpayers in Cook County. So please keep that in mind. I ran a courtroom for 13 years. The courts are here to redress our problems. That's what they're there for. Let's use them. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Next speaker is Richard Comstock. If you could come forward, please.
Good evening, I'm Richard Comstock, longtime farm family on either side of the proposed site. We've been there 140 years. My neighbors have been there over 150 years. We've been active in renting ground, our family's out there, and buying land within the last 5 to 10 years. If this land gets taken out of production, which that area is very productive, it's kind of a garden spot. In tough years, it does very well. In good years, it does phenomenal. We're blessed to be there. We would like our voices heard in Springfield, our voices heard here at home. We pay taxes for a lot of years. We want to be represented, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That concludes our speakers for the evening. We'll move on to the approval of minutes. May I entertain a motion to approve the October 10th, 2024 minutes and lay over the October 24th, 2024 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve and lay over the minutes? Ms. Crosby motions, Ms. Goro seconds that motion. Is there any discussion on the approval of the minutes or the layover of the minutes? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Next is the consent agenda, which includes the raffle report and the auditor's report. Is there a motion, please? Mr. Thompson motions and seconded by Mr. Hoffman. Is there any discussion on the raffle report or the auditor's report? Okay, are there any board members opposed to the raffle report or the auditor's report? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Next, there are appointments per county board rules. Board chairman appointments shall lay over until the second board meeting after they are first introduced. There are no appointments to read in this evening. Next, a report of standing committees. First committee is the Finance Committee. Mr. Butita.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, we have a resolution approving amendment to the fiscal year 2025 budget policy regarding grants, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Butita, seconded by Mr. Penny. Any discussion, Mr. Butita?
This is just a provision to adjust our policy with grants and the amount of, or the percentage of operating money to use out of those grants. So that will coincide with a lot of the grants that we're receiving now.
Very good. Any board member discussion on this resolution? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Butita.
Next, we have an ordinance for a budget amendment from the Winnebago County Mental Health Board Jail Navigator Vehicle, and I move to suspend the rules on this.
Motion to suspend by Mr. Butita, and we have a second by Mr. Lindmark. Are there any board members opposed to the suspension of rules this evening for this ordinance? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Butita, the rules are suspended.
I move that we pass the ordinance for the budget amendment for the Jail Navigator Vehicle.
Motion by Mr. Butita. Is there a second by Mr. Lindmark? Is there any board discussion, Mr. Butita, on this ordinance?
It's a $35,000 vehicle for this program.
Very good. Is there any board member discussion on this ordinance this evening? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this ordinance? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Butita.
Okay, next we have an ordinance for a budget amendment for Justice for Families Grant Award, and I move to suspend the rules on this one also.
Motion to suspend by Mr. Butita. Is there a second? Mr. Lindmark seconds that motion. Are there any board members opposed to the suspension of rules this evening? Hearing none, please cast a yes for all members present. The rules are suspended. Mr. Butita.
All right, I move for passage for the ordinance for the budget amendment for the Justice of Families Grant Award.
Moved by Mr. Butita, second by Mr. Arena. Is there any board member discussion? Mr. Butita?
This is a $163,000 grant that will go to fund the Domestic Violence Coordinated Court.
Very good. Any further board member discussion on this ordinance? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this ordinance? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Butita.
Yes, finally, we have a ordinance for a budget amendment for Order of Protection Service Grant Award, and I move to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend by Mr. Butita, second by Ms. Hansard. Are there any board members opposed to the suspension of rules for this ordinance? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Butita.
All right, I move for the passage of the ordinance for a budget amendment for Order of Protection Service Grant Award.
Moved by Mr. Butita, second by Ms. Hansard. Is there any board member discussion on this ordinance?
This is going to be a grant. It's a multi-year grant. I believe it's going to total about $1.6 million. It's going to serve as a pilot for seeing if electronic service protection of order pilot program. So it's just a pilot program. The feds are asking this county to take over.
Very good. Any further board member discussion on this ordinance? Ms. Corral.
For those who don't have electronic services such as smartphones and computers and all this, then how are you going to notify them if there is a protection of order?
This is just a pilot program.
I understand that.
So Mr. Jake would probably, if he's available, I don't see him. They're asking the county to look into the possibility if this is going to be feasible. So whether it is or isn't, I don't know. That'll be probably found out during the course of the grant.
That would be very good, because many of them don't have those services.
Sure.
How long is the pilot program?
Mr. Jakeway said it was about a 3-year program, about $1.6 million spread over 3 years, I believe. Was the
Thank you.
numbers.
Very good. Any further discussion on this ordinance? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this ordinance? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Butita.
That concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Butita. Next is the Zoning Committee. Mr. Webster. Oh,
Thank you, Chairman. Could we take this a little out of order and move down to line 10 on our agenda this evening so I can get to the matter at hand?
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Would that be okay with you?
Yes, please.
Okay. Shuffling the deck a little bit here. Thank you. Okay. Moving down to number 10. From zoning this evening, we have an ordinance that was read in at our prior meeting, laid over for 2 weeks, so it's to be voted on this evening. And specifically, it's an ordinance granting site approval of a 5-megawatt commercial solar energy facility on 75.30 acres. It's commonly known as 5150 Tate Road, PIN number 07-31-200-006, Rockford, Illinois, in Owen Township, District 5, laid over from October 24th meeting. So with that, I would move to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Webster to approve this ordinance. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Tassoni. Any discussion, Mr. Webster?
Not for me, sir.
Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The item at hand, the zoning matter for approval of solar, myself attended the 3-hour-long zoning board of appeals hearing. Not entirely was regarding to the solar, but the majority of it was. And I attended that meeting in person, and The approval of this was denied at ZBA. I feel they got it right. In addition, I zoomed in to the zoning committee hearing, and it failed at that committee level, and I feel they got it right. And what I'm asking for tonight is for this board to get it right as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. Any further discussion on this ordinance before you this evening? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this ordinance? All right, can we do a roll call, please?
Mrs. Gorel? Ms. Hansard?
Yes, for this ordinance.
Mr. Hoffman? Mr. Lindmark? Mr. McCarthy? Mr. McDonald? Mr. Neighbors? Mr. Penny? Mr. Salgado? Mr. Scroll? Mr. Sweeney? Mr. Tassoni? Mr. Thompson? Mr. Webster?
No?
Mr. Arena? Mr. Booker? Mr. Butita? Mrs. Crosby? Ms. Fellers? Mr. Chairman, 3 yes, 16 no, and 1 board member absent.
Thank you. The ordinance has failed. Mr. Webster.
Thank you. The next meeting we have would be the 25th of this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. So I apologize to one of the speakers, Jenny Zamudo Williams. I neglected to call your name, so after we finish this meeting, I'll call you up. So sorry. It's what happens when you get old. Can't see good. All right, so we have Economic Development Committee, Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Economic Development Committee has one item tonight, and that is a resolution granting authority to the Winnebago County Chairman to execute the documents necessary to complete a loan for $100,000 from the revolving loan fund to Jams Disposal, Inc., and I move for its adoption.
Moved by Mr. Sweeney, second by Mr. Penny. Ms. Hansard, any discussion, Mr. Sweeney?
None from me, sir.
Any board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Sweeney.
Yeah, that does conclude our report, but if I might, real quick, Mr. Chairman, just want to make a mention of the fact that approximately around October 29th, you attended a ribbon cutting for the Air Liquide project, which is the world's largest biomethane production unit in the world, and maybe because it was right before the election, there was a lot of stuff going on, but it really didn't get a lot of press, and I think it certainly deserves some press. You worked extremely diligently and hard on that, and on behalf of the board, I want to commend you for all your efforts that you put into that, and hopefully you might not be able to leave this room without being asked about it by certain members of the press, maybe. I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Appreciate that. Operation and Administrative Committee, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have several items for this evening. The first is a resolution authorizing acceptance of credit cards by the Winnebago County Coroner's Office for fees, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald. Is there a second by Mr. Penny? Any discussion, Mr. McDonald?
No, sir.
Any board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is a resolution awarding payment processing services to Auto Agent Data Solutions LLC, MusiPay, for the Winnebago County Coroner's Office, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, second by Mr. McCarthy. Any discussion, Mr. McDonald?
Not for me, sir.
Any board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is a resolution awarding flooring replacement for the coroner's office using CIP 24 funds, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, second by Mr. Thompson and Mr. Penny. Is there any discussion, Mr. McDonald?
Not for me, sir.
Any board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is a resolution awarding space study analysis to the Juvenile Detention Center, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, second by Mr. Booker. Is there any discussion, Mr. McDonald?
Not for me, sir.
Any board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is a resolution approving bond amount for Winnebago County Auditor pursuant to 55 ILCS 5/3-1001, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, seconded by Mr. Penny. Is there any board member discussion on this resolution? None from the chair, Mr. McDonald?
No, sir.
Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is a resolution awarding email archiver hardware refresh using CIP 2025 funds, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald. We have a second by Mr. Penny. Is there any discussion, Mr. McDonald?
Not for me, sir.
Mr. Arena.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This came to committee as a sole source item, and we talked about it in committee, and I did vote for it then, but it was done in a way that didn't comply with our purchasing ordinance dealing with sole source. Just as a general rule, I don't think sole source is a good idea and should be used rarely. And I think that this could have been bid. I think the advantage of bidding stuff is it gives us an opportunity to hear from, the industry of other ideas or different ways we can do things, even when we have a product that we like. So I don't see any downside to getting bids. And for that reason, I move that we send this back to committee so that it can be put out for bid.
So we have a motion by Mr. Arena to send this back to committee. We have a second by Mr. Webster. Mr. Butita. Is there any discussion on the motion to send this back to committee? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to sending this back to committee? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. The item will be sent back to the committee. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is a resolution awarding cybersecurity antivirus licensing renewal using county automation funds, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald. Do we have a second? Mr. Penny seconds. He's got a roll. He's on a roll tonight.
Not for me, sir. Thank you.
No discussion by Mr. McDonald. Any further board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is a resolution awarding cybersecurity backup licensing upgrade using CIP 2025 funds, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, second by Ms. Crosby. This is board member discussion, Mr. McDonald?
Not for me, sir.
Any other board members want to discuss this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is a resolution awarding Montiel Technologies for countywide security cameras and integrator system contract using ARPA funds, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, second by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion, Mr. McDonald?
Not for me, sir.
Any board member discussion? Mr. Arena.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In committee, questions were asked about the specifics of the contract, and as part of that discussion, I inquired as to if our outside counsel, who's
who specializes in, our construction law, had looked at the contract and they had not. And so I asked that happen, and outside counsel had came back with, I believe, minor changes in many places, 16 places of the contract. And a lot of the changes I don't think are significant, but there are areas in terms of down payment money. As it came to us, I think that contract would have had us writing a check for over $2 million when we execute the contract. And I questioned whether we should be giving a down payment of that substantial amount of money upfront to any vendor. I don't have any doubts about the company doing it. I think that there's specifics in the contract need to be clean. It's an $8 million investment by the county, and I don't think we should leave ourselves in the position where there can be disagreements or fights about when they get paid, how they get paid, what the standards of payment are, and those are all the areas of cleanup. So there wasn't a lot of time between committee and tonight to really go through all that, get the changes from our council, send those changes to Montel Technologies, make sure they're okay with these changes. And for that reason, I move that we send this back to committee so the committee can adopt the changes, make sure Montel is okay with those changes, and then we can do final approval at our next board meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Arena to send this back to committee, a second by Ms. Fellers. Is there any discussion on this motion to send this item back to committee? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to sending this back to the committee? Hearing none? Okay, please cast a yes for all members present. Item is being sent back to committee. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our final item is a resolution awarding Montel Technologies for countywide security camera and integrator system maintenance and support contract, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, second by Mr. McCarthy. Any discussion on this resolution? Mr. Arena?
It's attached to the prior resolution, so they follow each other. This should go back to committee and come back to us in 2 weeks.
So that's a motion to...
A motion, I move to
motion
send
and a second by Ms. Fellers to send this item back to committee. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to sending this resolution back to committee? All right. Please cast yes for all members present. That item will be also sent back to committee. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. All right, we have Public Works Committee. Mr. Tassoni. Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. Public Safety and Judiciary Committee, we have the infamous Mr. Brad Lindmark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one resolution tonight, resolution accepting the award and authorizing the chairman of the Winnebago County Board to execute a Winnebago County Mental Health Board funding agreement for accelerator grant awards, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Lindmark. Do we have a second by Mr. Booker, Mr. Neighbors? Any discussion, Mr. Lindmark?
Not for me, sir.
Any board member discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Lindmark.
That'll do it, sir. But we do have a public safety meeting Monday night, the 18th, for the people on the committee. And I would like to make a brief statement in new business when we get that far.
Very good. We have, next is Legislative and Lobbying Committee. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do not have a report. There is, after the elections, there's a lame duck session, so we'll be in communication with our lobbyists to determine what actions going forward on that. So just wanted to bring that up.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Salgado. Unfinished business we've already completed. I'm going to, at this point, allow the speaker to come forward. I apologize again. It's Jenny Zamuto Williams.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Jenny Zamuto Williams. I've dedicated nearly 19 years of service to this county. I stand before you not just as an employee, but as AFSCME Local 473's president. I am representing many here today who share a growing sense of disillusionment and frustration. Our union is currently in contract negotiations with the county. It's disheartening to see how our commitment and hard work is being undervalued. We continue to show up every day despite the fact that our paychecks are losing ground against the rising cost of living. Year after year, the cost of living increases, but our wage adjustments fail to reflect this reality. Working for this county, it used to be a desirable career choice, one that offered solid health insurance, competitive wages, and the promise of a secure pension. Today, we face a starkly different situation. Our healthcare costs are set to rise by 10%, as well as increased employee contributions, while our raises fall short of these increases. This means less take-home pay, not more. We have some positions requiring an associate degree or equivalent, yet they earn barely above minimum wage. This is not only disgraceful, but also disheartening, and it should be a source of shame for this board. Our jail and 911 departments are severely understaffed. The Pretrial Fairness Act and the federal inmates that the jail houses have increased overtime demands significantly. The corrections officers are forced to work 1 day out of every block of days off. This at times forces an officer to work 72 hours in 1 week. The safety issues for this alone should weigh heavy on you. Additionally, this county is facing a significant challenge: retention. We are one of the lowest paid counties in this region, yet the county continues to collect substantial tax revenue from various sources and have one of the highest property taxes in the state. All we are asking for is a fair contract. We do not seek excess, we seek equality. We are asking for a contract that reflects the dedication and hard work that we invest in our jobs every day. Thank you for your attention and consideration. I trust that you will take these concerns to heart as we work towards a fair resolution.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Is there any new business in front of the county board this evening? Mr. Lindmark, you had your hand up? Lindmark.
You had mentioned that Ms. Hinsky is going to write a letter to everyone voicing her concerns on why she withdrew and what happened to her. I got to be honest, I'm a little disturbed by some of it. And I think I'd like to hear from Valerie if it's appropriate so she can defend herself. So we're all not wondering if this is true, not true.
Did all the board members receive this letter? Because I was made aware.
I don't know.
It came through late this afternoon, and I was having email problems. No, I'd like to have all board members receive this email. That's what I was going to do, but I did not receive this email until late this afternoon. And then I had IT problems.
I thought everybody received it.
No,
Some
there's
didn't.
board members here that have not. So
Okay.
I'd like to at least get that distributed tomorrow morning to all board members, and then we can discuss it. Ms. Hinsky, correct?
Barry Hinsky.
Very good.
All right.
Okay, so we'll take care of that. We'll get that letter out to everybody tomorrow morning, as long as my IT is working. Okay. Announcements and communications. Ms. Gorel.
I just want to thank everyone who voted for the Winnebago County Committee on Mental and Behavioral Health. That was a wonderful election we had, and your support for this was well noted. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can't thank all of you who have worked on this, who put up signs, like Valerie over here, never did know where she got them, but she got them. And I'm just so pleased with all of you who participated in this. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Well worth
Gorel.
it.
Yes, it is. Announcements, communication, board members. Mr. Penny.
I just want to again, I seem to have a lot of questions for Troy and his team. Just want to give them a shout out. I get very quick responses, especially when it's dealing with residents that aren't sure of the process on a variety of things, and Troy and his team do an outstanding job.
Very good. Did you hear that, Ashley? We'll let Troy and team. Good job, Ashley. All right, board member communications. Announcements? None? Clerk Gummow?
Thank you, Chairman. The items listed below were received as correspondence.
Very good, Clerk Gummow. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Webster, motion, second by Mr. Thompson. All in favor, say aye.